Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monroe City Council meeting. This is the regular business meeting for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. The time right now is 7 p.m. I'm going to ask Clerk Wyckoff to please read a roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members present and establishing a quorum are council members Fulcher, Kinney, Davis, Fisher, and Scarborough.
Thank you. And did we hear at an earlier meeting that Council Member Gamble would not be here this evening? Okay,
I don't
so
recall.
we'll announce for the record when he comes in, and we did have 6, right? I feel like I'm missing somebody between.
I don't have Hanford.
Did Hanford mention he was not going to be here?
I don't remember hearing anything.
Okay, so we'll announce for the record when they enter chambers. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on then to the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Councilmember Fisher to please lead us. Thank you. Thank you. Next item we have on the agenda this evening is a proclamation. This is a proclamation for the annual powwow. And I'm very happy that the powwow is going to be held here this year again. I'm going to go ahead and read this into the record, and then I'll invite you to come forward and say a few words. So proclamation, annual powwow, May 27, 2023. Whereas the Monroe, Snohomish, and Sultan School District's Skycomish Valley Indian Education Program is a federally funded program that focuses on academic support and cultural activities. And whereas the program serves Native American, Alaska Native students preschool through high school age in Monroe, Snohomish, and Sultan school districts. And whereas it is valuable that residents of the city of Monroe be aware of the importance of Native American, Alaska Native education programs. And whereas the Monroe, Snohomish, and Sultan school districts Skycomish Valley Indian Education Program and supporting nonprofit parent organization are sponsoring a unique ceremony on Saturday, May 27th, 2023, entitled the 19th Annual Traditional Powwow. And whereas the 19th Annual Traditional Powwow will be held at Monroe High School Commons at 17001 Tester Road, Monroe, Washington, 98272 from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And whereas partnership, awareness, cooperation are important themes of the traditional powwow. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey Thomas, do hereby thank the Snohomish County, the Skycomish Valley Indian Education Program and encourage the residents and businesses in Monroe to participate in the 19th Annual Traditional Powwow on Saturday, May 27, 2023. Please come forward. If you could introduce yourself for the record and your association with this, and
Okay.
Please go ahead and fill us in on the powwow. Thank you.
My name is Mars Miller. I'm the Family Liaison Coordinator for the program. And we are here to invite you to the powwow. And I want to introduce someone that's part of our board and her son.
Thank you for having me. My name is Christine Cook, and I'm from Snohomish, and I'm part of the Fort Belknap Reservation in Montana. I'm a Assiniboine tribe, and this is my son, Liam Cook, and he is part of the Skycomish Valley Indian Education Program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we took a few years off, and now we're back with our 19th annual. And it's 2 grand entries. There's dancers and drums from all over the area. And we have vendors, and we serve buffalo powwow soup and fry bread. And we hope you'll all join us. I'm going to leave some flyers and a couple words about our program. We are grateful to this Monroe School District because we've had the program in the schools as a federally funded program since 1980. And we now have a 501c3 nonprofit. We raise funds for graduation and merit awards and have increased to a consortium of 3 school districts over the years. That's a little bit about us. And I'm from Wisconsin. I'm Anishinaabe descendant. And in any given year, we have students from over 40 different tribes, bands, nations, Alaska villages, from coast to coast. It's amazing. And this year we have like 111 students in the 3 districts combined.
Thank you very much. I have a proclamation to present to you. If you'd like, council and I can come down and join you on the floor if you wanted to take a photograph or anything. Okay, and before we do that, I have a point of order I need to address. Please let the record show that Councilmember Hanford entered chambers at 7:04 p.m. Good evening, Councilmember, and welcome on down.
Oh, I guess.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That next item would be item 4.2. This is a legislative session recap presented by Jim Hendrick and Luke Esser. I'll go ahead and invite the two of them up and I will activate seat 10, AKA our podium.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Jim Hedrick, your brand spanking new, my colleague, Luke Esser. I'm the human part of the equation. He's the attorney. So he's been studying here. Make sure you give all the hard questions to him. Really want to thank you all for allowing us to represent you. We have only started in December of 2022. And it was a fast uptake on City of Monroe priorities. Your brand new community to your legislative district changed. You've got a brand new legislative delegation. One thing you may not know is that House Republicans had a little shakeup in leadership, and now Representative Mike Steele is going to be the new minority floor leader. So that's good for us, and that we've got a little more juice in the 12th district legislative delegation. Really is a good night here to be in Monroe, and we thank you. Just want to say, I think Luke and I, we worked together for years and have other municipal clients, and we really try to pride ourselves on communication. And I can tell you that the city manager eats up communication, and we had, I thought, a great relationship through the session with the city manager and the mayor, and look forward to serving you in the future. So let's talk about the last session and what occurred. I'm going to turn it over to Luke for a bit to talk about the budget issues, especially State Route 522, which we got here on time. So it's working well, at least for tonight.
And good evening, Luke Esser, and I am going to touch on some of the fiscal related issues first. Most importantly, the transportation related issue, and the rub of that issue this past year was not the amount of funding involved, but the timing that was involved, because there was already, for an already long delayed project to fix the bottleneck in 522, the governor had proposed postponing some spending some existing resources by another decade. And fortunately, we had a local legislative delegation and a lot of efforts by the city and us and constituencies local to here to try to, communicate the importance of moving forward more quickly than that. And fortunately, we had a pretty good result. The amount of money for the 522 widening project was increased by $10 million last year, and now under the budget that was adopted by the state this year, all of that money will be spent by the 2025 to 2027 biennium. And it's our understanding that that work, and of course, we'll defer to the Public Works Director, will complete the design, engineering, and environmental work that will set the stage for construction. Obviously, that will be a considerable amount of dollars, and there's more work to be done to acquire those dollars, but it will really, set us up to a point where we can launch into construction once we can find those construction dollars. So we feel good about that result. Next, I want to touch base on another priority of the city's in the capital budget. There was $1.1 million appropriated for the therapeutic community court project, which was the top capital budget priority of the city. And we'll have to give a lot of credit, a disproportionate share, to Senator Brad Hawkins for that particular appropriation. He really took that one to heart, and it was in the Senate budget right from the start, and he was able to carry that through right till the end of the process. And one final budget related item that also kudos go to Senator Hawkins in the operating budget. There was $100,000 in each of the next 2 fiscal years to continue for the city to continue to provide pilot projects that enable the city to dispatch human services and social services staff in conjunction with law enforcement officers. And so a nice continuation of a partnership with the city on those needs. So kind of felt good that we had a triangle of transportation, capital, and operating budget successes to report this year. More work to be done, but we think a good foundation was set for future years. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim to chat about a few of the law enforcement related issues that were prominently discussed in the legislature this year.
Which paramount was the Blake decision. Real quick history lesson or walk back in time. State Supreme Court in 2021 threw out the state's possession law, the knowingly standard. So there was a time where we actually had decriminalization of the possession of counterfeit drugs and controlled substances. Legislature passed a stopgap measure, if you will, that had a ticking time on it, a sunset of July of this year. So they had to pass a bill this year to make a permanent law before we would have decriminalization of drugs, or the possession of drugs, I should say, in a state. Came up with a bill that came out of the Senate, different bill out of the House committee, the fiscal committee in the House, got to a conference committee on the last day, and it went down. I've been in Olympia 35 years. I'm not bragging. I know it sounds like I'm in the yard at Shawshank, but I've never seen a conference committee report go down. I've seen conference committee reports not go up for a vote, but never go down on that, like the last day, like it went down in the House. So as the governor proceeded signing bills and taking actions on bills from the regular session, he did call them back for a special session. Lasted one day, actually 6 hours, started at 10, adjourned at 4, and they came up with a permanent fix, or so we hope. Probably wouldn't be surprised if this bill is revisited next year. But it is a modified gross misdemeanor for 2 possessions. The first 2 possessions, you can get jail up to 6 months or up to $1,000 fine. The third conviction, you can be up to a year. There is pre-trial diversion, and a suspect can have their charges vacated. However, the prosecutor has to agree to it. That was a big provision in the bill, that the prosecutor has to agree for the suspect to have pre-trial diversion. You all here in Monroe are very well set up because you've got a therapeutic court. So you are well set up. You're in a better position than most communities, quite frankly, of your size to deal with the new law. It does preempt locals from setting any rules, but for making rules and ordinances about harm reduction. So I mean, needle exchange types of programs. And by that, you could pass an ordinance. I'm just giving an example, 1,000 yards from a school, a playground, or what have you, a park or a childcare. So you do reserve the right to place these harm reduction diversion programs anywhere you want to. but you cannot not have them. I guess is the upshot there. I just want to make sure I got everything. You do retain that. Yeah, and I gave you the example there. So this is a complicated bill. A lot of people moving pieces to it. I've been talking to AWC. They will come out with additional guidance. I think MSRC will come out with additional guidance. But I mean, there's communities that still are going to have to decide, law enforcement, how they're doing this. The other thing I wanted to mention is there's a new crime called public use. And this, quite frankly, was put in there to get Republican votes, which they obviously have to have, but there was a lot of Republicans pushing for the public use standard. And that is if you are using illicit drugs, these counterfeit drugs in public, it is a primary offense. The law enforcement officer, as I understand it, will have to see the suspect doing it to make an arrest or to, take them to the court system or the diversion system. So that's a new law. Prosecutors did have serious doubts about how that would be enforced, but I think they got language that they feel that will work. So that's a new charge that is in the bill. Police pursuits, which was Senate Bill 5352, they passed that earlier in session. So for a law enforcement officer to pursue someone in a vehicle, vehicular pursuit, it dropped the evidentiary standard from probable cause. That's the bill that they passed 3 years ago now, and put it to reasonable suspicion. So lower evidentiary standard, and the offenses that are enumerated are mostly sex offenses, vehicular assault, assault in the first, second, and third degree, offenses of assault of domestic violence, and DUI. DUI, by the way, was always an offense where you could have a vehicular pursuit. They never did change that, but that is enumerated again in the new law. Essentially any law but for property crimes. Police still cannot pursue for property crimes, stolen vehicles, burglary, what have you. That was signed by the governor back on May 3rd, and that will go into effect July 1st as well. Going to turn it back over to Luke to talk about housing and zoning.
And affordable housing and zoning was another major topic area that the legislature spent a lot of time addressing this past year, as they had in recent years. We want to touch base on a couple of the most prominent bills. 1110 was one which probably received more attention than any other, referred to by supporters as the missing middle bill, by those who weren't as fond of it as the mandatory multiplexes bill. Won't impact the city of Monroe until, as the written report indicates, 2033-ish, because it applies to cities of 25,000 population or more. When that point is achieved, every residential lot in the city will have to allow 2 units per lot and 4 units within a quarter mile walking distance of a major transit spot, and 4 units if at least one of the unit is affordable housing. So, and there are, for larger cities of 75,000 or above, it's a minimum 4 units per lot, and the number is 6 units if they're within transit, or 2 of the units are affordable housing. So there's this kind of a sliding scale depending on the size of the cities. House Bill 1337 dealt with accessory dwelling units and puts requirements on cities in most instances to allow at least 2 ADUs on all lots that allow single family homes. One instance that I know is addressed in the packet is that it does not allow impact fees of greater than 50% of the impact fees that would be imposed on the principal unit, which might have a fiscal impact to cities depending on the level of fees at the present point in time. There were also a couple of bills that were passed to try to encourage more condominium development. The thought being that that's a way to try to address ownership in what's called the missing middle. And one of those bills, 5258, was dealing with largely what's called the right to offer to cure, to require there be certain steps by those who might be thinking about filing a lawsuit over their condominium, try to encourage more settlement rather than litigation. And another Senate Bill 5058 that for smaller projects, 12 units or less, reduces some of the requirements that are currently required under state law for enclosure inspections by enclosure specialists, which can add to the cost of those particular units. And with that, we'll be happy to address any questions on those topics we touched or those we did not. And thanks again for the opportunity to represent you in Olympia.
Council members, you have any questions? Any comments?
Thank you.
That was a comment.
That'll work.
So Jim and Luke, I just express how much I appreciated how well we worked together in this legislative session. I think I had shared with the council members, but I'll share here again in case I forgot that. No, I didn't share. What was different about this year was that our government affairs team met with us on a weekly basis with the senior leadership team and with me. So in addition to getting an update from the AWC at noon, we then had a meeting at 3 o'clock and went over bills and things like that. It allowed us, I think, to be, I know, to be more effective in responding to issues as they developed in the legislature this year. And I think that put us in a better position of keeping you all informed as council members. So this year, I don't know that everybody quite added up all those figures, but the work that you did helped us secure a total of about $1.4 million between capital and also some operating. Does that sound about right? And
Yes.
so that is a great investment of resources. And I thank you both for that work that you did to help make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, and that item would be public comment. This is a time set aside for members of the public to speak to the city council on any issue related to the city of Monroe, except in a quasi judicial matter that is subject to a public hearing. 3 minutes are afforded to each speaker, and I'll ask that our clerk Wyckoff go ahead and put the timer up on the screen. And then I do have a sign up sheet. I'll start off with a sign up sheet, and then we'll go to remote attendees and also to any other members of the public who have not signed up. I will start off with Tanya Maines, I think. So if you could come on forward. I do ask that you state your name and just affiliation with the city of Monroe for the record. We don't need your exact address, just your affiliation. And after you've stated that, we'll start the 3 minutes.
I'm Tanya Maines. I've been a resident of Monroe city limits since 2001. I lived here briefly and then moved back I lived in Hawaii for a while and then came back in Monroe. So, and I teach at Park Place.
Thank you.
So I'm here tonight to just show my appreciation. Obviously being here for 20 years, there's been a lot of changes in Monroe. I want to show appreciation for the proclamation for the powwow. Pride event coming in, sponsored by the city, Juneteenth, belonging in September. All of these events are inclusive and bringing diversity and celebrating diversity that's so strong in our community. The more attention we bring to these kind of events, the better our community and stronger we're going to be together. The other thing I want to show appreciation for is the ARP funding. I attended the meeting at St. Vincent de Paul on May 11th that talked about the safe parking spaces for unhoused population, a lock-in. And I appreciate the attempt at a solution to find more help and to, especially for families that are trying to keep their children safe and in school where they belong. So I just wanted to show appreciation for that. And I'd written a letter, but you know what? It's more important to say stuff in person. And then I was also able to attend as a recipient of the ARP grant, the MFR consulting training for the inclusive change community agent. I did 2 weekends through that training with the MFR consulting. And then there's another weekend coming up and I will be participating in that one also. And I just wanted to say thank you because I think we don't say it enough. And I appreciate the direction, the progressive direction that Monroe is going. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Next person signed up to speak is Andrea Schletty. Thank you. And please, as before, just state your name and association with the city, then we'll start your timer. Thank
My
you.
name's Andrea Schlechty. I've been a resident since 2018 and I'm also a local licensed clinical social worker. So I'm also here to appreciate. I'd like to take this opportunity to address the importance of Monroe's Pride, Juneteenth, and belonging events. First, I want to express my gratitude for the proclamations from the mayor and his participation in welcoming the community to the events. It sends a powerful message of support and inclusivity to the residents of Monroe. You'll be hearing more about the events, but I'm going to specifically be talking about belonging. But I do also want to express appreciation for the availability again of funds. The ARPA funds make projects like these possible. The allocation of these funds demonstrates a commitment to investing in our community's cultural enrichment. And I hope that the city will continue to find ways to support and partner on similar events in the future. And I also want to acknowledge and thank our Monroe Police Department for their presence and support at these events. Their dedication in maintaining a visible presence really does contribute to a safer and more welcoming environment for all of our attendees. Allow me to share a personal experience that emphasizes, why belonging is important to me and those that I care about. Last summer in my neighborhood, I was subjected to racial targeting by a very verbally aggressive neighbor who lives about 8 houses down from me, still lives next to me. He made it very clear that he didn't want me and my child in his neighborhood, not realizing that we lived on the same street. It was extremely distressing, an incident that, opened my eyes to the stark reality of racism in our community. And that's why I'm here. I just want to talk about it. But what was even more disheartening was that, my child was 2.5 years old and he had experienced racism for the first time at that tender age. This incident isn't isolated. It reflects everyday struggles faced by people of color here in Monroe. And events like this, like belonging, provide a platform to address such issues, promote dialogue, work towards more inclusive and equitable community. Belonging celebrates cultural diversity through music, spoken word, performance art, vendors, activities, food. It holds immense significance. And it not only showcases the richness of our diverse community, but it also provides an opportunity for cultural exchange and appreciation. So these events foster understanding, they challenge stereotypes, and create spaces where everyone can feel a sense of belonging. So please, I urge the City Council to continue supporting events like the powwow, like Juneteenth, like Pride, belonging. Because by doing so, we can collectively address the various forms of discrimination experienced here in our community. Let us celebrate our cultural diversity and ensure that all residents feel valued and embraced in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. The next person who signed up is Bridget Tuttle. And as with the others, if you could state your name and association, that'd be great. Thank you, Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget. I've moved to Monroe in 2001 and I live in the Foothills neighborhood. I think that's that good enough.
Yeah.
I wrote something down because I don't like public speaking, but can I hand these posters?
Yeah, you can just give them to Jacob. He'll hand them.
Okay, I timed
down to our
myself
clerk.
so I don't have to get cut off because usually I go over. I'm Bridget and I'm the Vice President of the Monroe Equity Community and the Summer Events Director for the Community Connections Committee. For those who aren't familiar with MEC, here's what we stand for. Monroe is obviously the city. Equity, which is different from equality, means that equality means that everyone gets the same thing. Equity recognizes that people don't all start from the same place and we must make adjustments to imbalances so that everyone has access to the things that they need. And community, we inherited the name council when we started, but changed last year to community to better portray that equity work is and has been going on all around us in Monroe. And we all have the privilege of coming together to have a greater impact when needed. So as a group, our focus is on ensuring equitable access for everyone in this community. We envision a diverse and inclusive Monroe where all people are honored, safe, and represented. There are so many ways a city government creates equitable access in a community like ours, from school speed zones to tripping crosswalks, to deciding on the best bus stop locations, to installing sidewalks and streetlights, to dispersing federal funds to people and organizations who are impacted by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. equity work is a concern for our representative leadership. And to that point, we are here tonight to offer gratitude. We thank Mayor Thomas and any council members who have supported him for his proclamations the last few years that honor underrepresented people in Monroe. These acknowledgements, which include but are not limited to Juneteenth and Pride, to AAPI month and the powwow tonight, are important actions toward achieving the last line of your Envision Monroe statement. Everyone feels they belong. We have and continue to appreciate your participation, Mayor Thomas, in extending a mayoral welcome to the attendees each year at Pride, Juneteenth, and the cultural celebration, which we named Belonging. We know that some of you sitting in council seats, some of you from city staff, and some of you from the police department have attended many of these events, and we sincerely hope to see more of you this year. Please consider this a formal invitation extended from the Monroe Equity Community and its Board of Directors to come out to the 3rd annual Pride on June 11th, the 4th annual Juneteenth on June 17th, and the 2nd annual Belonging Celebration of Culture on September 9th. All events are at Skycomish River Park, and all events include music, food trucks, vendor booths, activities, family groups, educational opportunities, and the jump, rattle, and roll foam cannon that is so much fun for the kiddos. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak tonight. And if you'd like more information, we have a robust website at monroeequitycommunity.org. And also I would echo Andrea's comments as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next person who I have signed up to speak is Grayson. Is it Gomes? Good evening. Please go ahead and state your name for the record and your association with the city of Monroe, and then we'll start the timer.
Sure. My name's Grayson. My association, I live in the Frylands. I just wanted to share my appreciation as a person of color who is also a part of the LGBT community for events such as Pride, Juneteenth, and Belonging Monroe. These events are all integral to me and how I feel acknowledged and valued in Monroe. They create, foster, and protect diversity, equity, and inclusion. I encourage everyone in this room today to attend these events and to learn and to listen to different perspectives.
Thank you very much. Let me see. We already had Mars Miller already spoke, and Bill, Liam, and last name I think is Slook. I think they already spoke as well. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak this evening? If so, go ahead and raise your hand. All right, and if you're online, go ahead and hit *9 if you'd like to speak. I do see that one person is raising their hand, and that would be Janelle Lewis. So we'll go ahead and bring Janelle Lewis over into the panel. One moment. Yep, there you go. Janelle, you're now in the panel.
Okay, can you hear me?
We sure can. So please go ahead and state your name and association with the city, and then we'll start the timer. Thank you.
My name is Janelle Lewis, and I migrated from California to Monroe in 2018 with my family, my husband, and my 8 children. So I just wanted to come on. I wasn't going to speak, but just listening to everyone kind of encouraged me. I wanted to come on here and publicly thank the city of Monroe, as well as Monroe Equity Community, and especially the mayor for your efforts in promoting inclusivity in this community. Being an African-American woman, it's difficult. It is difficult. And I just want to thank everyone that makes the effort to make sure that everyone is included. Monroe Equity Community with their events, Pride, Juneteenth, Belonging, and it means a lot to have city support. I can't thank you enough, Mayor Thomas, for your proclamations. Coming from the city where I was born and raised, I don't even ever remember our mayor doing something like that. And I appreciate that because there's a big difference. And it takes a lot moving from allyship to co-conspiracy, actually putting yourself in the line of fire, because I mean, let's just be honest, not everyone agrees, not everyone supports. But at the end of the day, when you put yourself in the line of fire, that says a lot. Because we can talk all day, we can say what we support, but until that action is put behind those words, it really doesn't mean much. So I want to come on here and personally thank you, Mayor Thomas, and those members of City Council who have supported these events in the community. And I encourage those who have yet to attend these events. I truly encourage you to just take time out of your schedule and attend them, because it goes a long way. Just seeing your face, it goes a long way for people like me, so that's all I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity, and you all have a great evening.
Thank you, Janelle. Again, if there's anybody else who would like to speak, you can go ahead and raise your hand in the Zoom app or hit *9 if you're on the phone. All right, seeing no other hands going. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I need to hit your microphone. There
Good
you go.
evening. My
I was
name is.
afraid a fly would go by and
Oh.
then we'd get,
Okay.
So, okay, are we ready to go? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Claybrook. Learning as I go. Didn't realize I had to sign up to say anything, so my apologies. I am here tonight. Grew up in Monroe, 05 Bearcats, and then came back in 2019 as a homeowner and also a small business owner. The last 2.5 years, I've been building my adult family home, Atkinson Estates. Came up to breathe and had the opportunity after receiving an ARP grant as well. Thank you. To get involved locally with the Monroe equity community. And so I look forward to being on their board and also kind of creating and nurturing a relationship with you guys on your board. I've worked with the city of Monroe in building all of my permits and whatnot, but haven't necessarily been here. So I hope to be able to attend at least one board meeting a month and also just, again, grow that relationship. So thank you again for all your support.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so I'll do one more call and I will watch the audience and not turn off the microphone just yet. Again, you don't need to sign up. If you have something else you'd like to say, you can go ahead and hit your raise hand button in Zoom or *9 or raise your hand in the audience. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. And thank you everybody for coming tonight and sharing your comments. So the next item on the agenda is on the back page and on the screen. That would be the consent agenda. So I turn to the council. Councilmember Scarborough.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, I understand the motion is to move to approve the consent agenda as provided in the packet. Is that correct? Okay. That being the motion, we'll move to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. This is ordinance number 005-2023, adopting the 2021 International Building Code for first reading. I'll turn to our building official, Criswell. And let me turn on your microphone, sir. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you again for the opportunity. What you have before you is the first reading of ordinance 005-2023. It again is the adoption of the 21 International Building Codes and all of the codes that are associated with that. Last time I brought a stack of books with me to kind of show you how much there is actually involved in that. I saved my back tonight and I did not bring them again. But in that meeting, you wanted an opportunity to kind of go back and read through a lot of the red that was on the page. Hopefully you had an opportunity to do that and that you've seen most of what was there is numerical changes, where codes were moving around inside of the book itself. And really there was 5 main areas of focus that we were looking to get your approval for adoption here at the city. I'd be happy to go through those if there's any questions. Otherwise, I turn it back to you.
All right, thank you very much. I turn to council. Do you have any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Kenny.
Just curious about if you could remind me how we're rolling this out to the community so that they're aware.
Yeah, so we already have one out. That was the WUI code update, which I presented to council last time. That I believe has gone out to every jurisdiction in the state now. It has Building Officials Association and the Washington State Fire Marshal's Office stamp on that one. I was on vacation last week in South Korea, so my compatriots in other jurisdictions were working on those. As you can imagine, you get a couple jurisdictions trying to wordsmith a couple documents. So we decided that wasn't going very well. So we are now having them come here to the city of Monroe on June 1st. We're actually going to lay out. We've got a new deck standards tip sheet we're doing, policy for plan review and permit submittals, exterior siding and shed requirements, IRC significant changes, residential energy code changes, and the IBC significant code changes. We're going to go through all of those base documents and try and get those wrapped up. Everybody in the room, wordsmith it, and then we're going to try and send those out 1 to 2 every week. So that will be going out through like our social media, off of our website, and those jurisdictions will be doing the same thing.
Thank you very much. It did strike me looking through that. There's a lot of material and it affects everybody. And so that's great to hear that you're kind of breaking it down into digestible chunks that are understandable to everyone. So thanks for all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from other council members? Could we go on to the next slide with a motion then? All right, so if there are no other questions, or even if there are, there's a motion there for your consideration. We can certainly get everybody coffee so that you can make it all the way through that if you like.
It's 2 pages.
Oh, it's 2 pages?
No.
Oh, okay. I turn to the council. Councilmember Davis is the brave one this evening. Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
I'll try and make it through here. I move to accept as first reading ordinance 005/2023, amending chapter 15.04 MMC Building Code, adopting by reference the 2021 editions of the International Building Code, the International Residential Code, the International Existing Building Code, the International Mechanical Code, the International Fuel Gas Code, the Uniform Plumbing Code, the International Fire Code, the International Property Maintenance Code, the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, the International Windland Urban Interface Code, altogether with local amendments thereto, amending chapter 13.10 MMC Sewage Retreatment to update and clarify the applicable pretreatment requirements for food service establishments, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
I have a motion from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Hanford. Thank you, Councilmember Davis, for reading all that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and move on to new business item 8.2. This is the proposed code amendment to MMC 5.28 special events. I turn to Ben Swanson. Did I skip one? I sure did. Let's go ahead and go back to new business item 8.1. Let's just check and see if you're awake down there, sir. All right, so this is ordinance number 008/2023, amending MMC 3.54.130, transportation impact fees, first reading with Scott Peterson. Yeah, I can do that. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Tonight's agenda bill here is about ordinance number 8/2023. It's updating our transportation impact fees, which we do every year about this time of year. The whole purpose of this code is to try and keep up with inflation. The code's really specific about how to do that, and that is we take the construction cost index that WashDOT provides for us. We look at the previous 5 years and we get the average of that number. We compare that to what same process we did the previous year. We compare those two numbers and we determine what is the delta, the percent change, representing the inflation that we've experienced over the previous year. The math turns out to be a 6.2% increase, and we apply that equally across all of our impact fees. And that table is represented in your agenda packet. You can see the difference or the changes that are being proposed from the current impact fee schedule And then with this 6.2% increase, what that would mean for the future impact fees. As an example, a single family residential new dwelling will have a $235 increase to their transportation impact fees. So this also is being proposed to coincide with the upcoming fees resolution amendment that Becky will be bringing later next month, I believe, June 13th. And so it does dovetail nicely with updating our fees resolution table with all the other fees that we may need to update. So this, again, is the draft ordinance is in your packet, and that is it for me. I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
You said the increase is 6.2%?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or a motion from the council? Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
I move to accept as first reading ordinance 008/2023, amending chapter 3.54 MMC Transportation Impact Fees, updating the city's codified transportation impact fee schedule pursuant to MMC 3.54.130, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fulcher, and I heard Councilmember Kenny's voice first, so that was Councilmember Kenny, correct? Okay. So Councilmember Kenny on the second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item then is for Mr. Swanson. So this would be new business item 8.2, proposed code amendment to MMC 5.28, special events. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, Council. So tonight I'm presenting proposed amendments to MMC 5.28, the special events code. And what's the special events code does is for any of the events that, number of them that were mentioned tonight, the Juneteenth and the Pride events, they go through a special events code or permit application. And what that does is ensures that we have appropriate protections there. If there's traffic that's involved as far as like closing down a lane, for instance, for like triathlons, it allows us to review those things. And so why we decided to revisit this code section is really hadn't had a major amendment since 1989. And so we went through and we're just looking for just bringing it up to current practices on how we do things. And then another thing where our city attorney became involved were to ensure that we're not infringing on anybody's First or 14th Amendments under the Constitution. First portion of the First Amendment code, obviously being the right of people to peaceably assemble, the 14th being due process because it is a permit process that they go through. And so one of the bigger amendments that we is included in this is we actually added a new category called special expressive events. And what this does is it allows an off-ramp. So we aren't caught in a situation where it's defending municipal code when it could be in conflict with somebody's constitutional rights. And so if we get into these, and we think the code is very well written, however, there's always those one-offs or those kind of gray area things, and that's when we contact our city attorney. And so we put this special expressive event in here. So if the attorney does advise us that, hey, this is actually getting into a First Amendment territory here, we can classify them in the special expressive event and not risk ourselves to any legal challenges. And so that's why you see this new section that was added in there and what it means. I know it's kind of a funny wording, but we borrowed it from Gig Harbor, which already had done it before. So we just copied them. The next section is a pretty obvious one. It was purpose. We really didn't have a purpose statement in the code of why this code existed. So we added that, including some liability language is also in there. What else? We reached out to WCIA, who provides our insurance. And so when our special event applications come in, we send those to our insurance authority to say, hey, what do you think of these? Obviously, things around water are big issues and high risk. Dropping anything from the air is also a big risk. And so what we had before is we just kind of had some standard insurance requirement in there. However, the reality is that the amount of insurance can vary depending on the risk associated with the event. And so what we did there is we went through and amended the language to include that this is the minimum, however, it could increase based on the application. The next one that we had was It just wasn't a current practice. We had in the code had applicants submitting their fees prior to the event taking place. And what that ultimately result in is the city refunding money at the end. We've really haven't had problems with people paying. And so it was just creating more work on the city's end. And then finally, the subsection C and 130, it was more arbitrary language and we wanted some absolute criteria that you could go by for that. And so we also made that amendment. So we did take this through the Parks Board. They recommended approval, and then we also took it to the P3 committee. And with that, I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for ordinance 007, 2023? I see staff didn't put that in the agenda, so I couldn't say it. Anybody have any questions about the ordinance or a motion? Councilmember Kinney, go ahead.
Who has already heard about this and discussed it, I would like to move to accept the first reading of ordinance 007/2023, amending chapter 5.28 MMC special events, updating and clarifying the standards, criteria, insurance requirements, appeal procedures, and other parameters for special event permits, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Kinney, a second from Councilmember Scarborough. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is new business item number 8.3, approval to proceed with contract 2023-067 municipal campus mural. And I turn to Ellie Edwards, who is seat 17. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I know I haven't gotten the chance to formally meet some of you, so I appreciate the chance. The agenda bill I have in front of you today is looking to authorize the mayor to continue to finalize and sign contract number 2023-067 municipal campus mural with American Light Studio, or as some of you may know him, David Hose. So the city issued an RFP in January looking for artists to provide a mural in the new municipal campus, reflecting Monroe's past, present, and future, and also aligning with Imagine Monroe. That bid closed on February 22nd, 2023, so about a month with no submissions. So per city policy, the mayor and city staff were able to proceed to negotiate directly with American Light Studio on a contract for that mural. Due to the timing required to complete the mural, staff is requesting City Council to authorize us to continue to negotiate a contract with David Hose and for the mayor to eventually sign that contract. There's plenty of details in here that we have worked on with David Hose and continue to work on for that contract. The production will be divided into 2 phases, and then there is a payment schedule and some more details listed in the agenda bill. The total timeframe for this project is anticipated to be approximately 10 months and will begin after the contract is signed. The mural is intended to be displayed within the new council chambers in the city hall that is remodeled, and the dimensions will be approximately 17.5 feet in length and 6 feet in height. This artwork may potentially be composed of up to 3 separate panels, which will enable it to be more mobile and potentially enhance its storytelling potential. Total cost for this contract is not expected to exceed $61,868 inclusive of tax. This amount is part of the municipal campus renovation project budget in Fund 330. Once the final details of the contract are established, city staff will use our contract template, which was developed with the city attorney's input, and we will go through risk management and have city attorney review before the mayor signs that agreement. So that is all the details I have today. And at this time, I will open up to any questions.
Great, thank you very much. And I do want to clarify one thing. The location of the mural would be right behind them along that wall. So when we talk about the 17 feet and everything, if you're wondering where this is going to go, essentially we would have our backs to what is currently the brick wall right there, and the mural would be there to our right. So it just gives you a little bit more context on location. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
Yes, did I hear in your last sentence that the approval of the mural goes to the mayor before it goes on?
Yes, so after the contract is finalized, we're gonna run that contract through the city attorney and then risk management for their approval of the contract, and then it will go to the mayor to sign.
The contract or the mural itself?
The mural itself will go to the mayor and council members for approval. So during the process, David is talking about providing us a model about halfway through the production cycle. And then both in the production and then the actual implementation of the mural, he wants to invite the mayor and council members and staff members for input.
Okay, and Becky, the $61,000 has already been allocated for this? Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, Becky, Director Hassert was nodding up and down, yes.
It is part of the overall municipal campus budget.
Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
I am pretty excited about seeing more of Mr. Hose's artwork, especially here in chambers or the new chambers. So I move to authorize the mayor to finalize and sign contract number 2023067 municipal campus mural with American Light Studio.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fulcher, a second from Councilmember Hanford for the requested action in 8.3 for new business. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda, and I need to stop crossing things off ahead of time because I almost moved down to council member reports, is item 8.4 city employee handbook updates with Director Worthen. Director Worthen, go ahead.
Maybe Mayor, Council, had I known Ally was going to do so well, I would have had her do the next one. But tonight we have 2 employee handbook updates to discuss. There's 2 separate motions. The first one is currently the vacation for the non-represented group, which is most of your managers and directors, is at 160 hours. As you might remember in the last collective bargaining agreements, we increased that carryover to 200 hours to our bargain staff. So the request before you is to make that the same for your non-represented staff members. The fiscal impacts for this one is a little bit challenging. I actually, there is the case where an individual could leave with a potential payout of more than 40 hours. However, we don't pay out vacation until that individual separates. So there's really hard to quantify that one. And I'm not sure if you want to take motion 1, have a discussion, and then vote on the second one, but I'm open to how the council and or the mayor.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce item 2?
Great. Item number 2 is in recruitment and selection. Our current process is you have to be off probation or in a position for longer than 12 months, 1 year in order to apply for any other position inside the city limit or within the city. And to go outside of that exception, you have to contact your director, and the director has to get approval from the city administrator. What we heard is a lot of people may be interested in moving jobs specifically in public works where there's, a definite progression. But people are, when they're on probation, they're a little bit intimidated to go to the director and then ultimately to the city administrator. So people are interested in these positions and they're just not asking. So one of the things my group's been doing a lot of in the past 12 months is trying to remove barriers both for individuals to come in and individuals to stay. So this is just the next evolution in that. So they'd still be able to apply at that part and then go through the interview process just like anybody else.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from council members or a motion? Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize staff to make necessary updates to the employee handbook to increase carryover of vacation from 160 hours to 200 hours.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hanford, a second from Councilmember Fulcher for requested action. Motion 1 on the screen under 8.4 new business. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember Hanford, did you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize staff to make necessary updates to the employee handbook to remove the requirement of quote, not currently in their orientation period to apply, unquote, for open positions.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hanford, a second from Councilmember Davis for motion 2 under requested action on 8.4 new business on the screen. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move on to council member reports. We'll go ahead and start on the far end today. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
Nothing to report that I can remember. Isn't that terrible?
That's okay. Thank you. Councilmember Fisher, go ahead.
Also nothing to report, so I don't think I can remember here. I think it's contagious.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hanford.
Thankfully, I didn't catch it because I have some things to report. So I got back from the DC trip, traveling with Economic Alliance of Snohomish County. And it was very productive. I must say, Mayor Brett Gailey from Lake Stevens came through on his word from a year ago. And he brought his city administrator, so I got to see Gene Brazel, as well as 5 council members. And they not only met with some of our designated meetings, they had also had their lobbyists set up their own specific meetings for Lake Stevens with legislators and senators. So that was very interesting. It was very productive. One of the things in meeting with Senator Cantwell, it was very interesting. One of her aides was a Monroe High School graduate. And in talking with him, she had mentioned that there was going to be open funding for railroad crossings along highways. And so the funding isn't open yet, but it will be soon. And I've already put her in contact with Ms. Knight and Zach. And so that was very hopeful sounding for future. I brought up the bypass, but if you think about it, even if they were to go through with the bypass anytime soon, we would still want railroad crossings across Highway 2. So that was very encouraging. Also, in bringing that up, they mentioned that anything that we can bring to any projects that relate specifically to freight mobility get a higher score and increase the chance for funding on projects like that. So since Highway 2 is such a major thoroughfare, that should help us if we can point that out. Also, an interesting meeting that we had with Congress or Representative Del Bene. She was very clear that if you have not spent your ARP funds, and it's interesting that the ARP funding was brought up so much tonight, that if you have not done that, that you should do that soon because they're looking at trying to pull back COVID dollars. So I asked her specifically and explained how we had already granted 100% of the funds, but only 40-some% had actually been reimbursed. If that would qualify, and her and her staff verified that that should qualify because we've already given our word that we've given the funding. So that was encouraging to hear that we've done our part, but some other cities that were there with me were talking to their staff immediately like, okay, we need to go back and get these funds out quickly. So that was interesting. And then I guess the last thing I would say was about that. It was very interesting in talking with some of the other people on the trip. And something that I'm proud of, and I was brought up again tonight, our city spent all the funds and gifted all the funds to human services and to benefit the people in our city.
Yes.
And so many of the other cities that I was with use that funding for slush funds to pay back things. And so it was very encouraging. And it was very gratifying to sit there and say, well, yeah, we used all of it for the city people, not the city government itself. So pat on the back to everybody here and for staff for helping to make that happen, because I know it wasn't easy. It's been a lot of and Rachel already left, but it's been a lot of work to make sure that the funding goes out. So I think, oh, I wanted to make the flags for a fall and run on Saturday, but I had a concrete pour that day.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't get out of that. So that's it. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you very much for the report out, and they have been talking about what they've been terming the clawback for a while on the ARP dollars. And you're right, one of the things we did differently here was with CARES and the first tranche of ARP is we got all the money out the door to help out our community that was in need. We did keep money here to help out with service delivery, like IT improvements and things like that, but there are other jurisdictions that kept it for larger projects. And we were one of the few that were actually getting money out the door rather than waiting for a big macro project. So thank you. All right, we're going to go to Councilmember Kinney.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just want to preface my comments by saying that it really felt good to have people come in tonight and express gratitude for what we're doing. It feels really good. A lot of the time you just hear negative comments or complaints. You know, one person will really like the new signage and someone else will not like the new signage. One person may think we're not doing enough in terms of making this a welcoming city for all. And someone else, like tonight, will say, you're working to make it a all-inclusive city. So thank you. I just really appreciate everyone coming, showing up on a work night to share those comments. It's just really gratifying. So thanks. Saturday, Flags for Our Fallen was wonderful. Ran that race. And it was a great event and really tough. As you run around Lake Ty, they've got the sign set up with all of our fallen service members from Washington State. And I'm so glad that they do this every year. It's very, very important to remember, you know, what Memorial Day is all about and to understand that freedom is not free. Someone has paid for that. And saw a lot of kids out there and it's a great event. And I was very happy to be a part of that. Also, some of you may notice I'm wearing my track coach attire this evening. Came right from practice to P3. And we have a home track meet tomorrow night at Monroe High School. So if any of you can escape after work, our jumping events, Jake's son, actually, Zeke, is one of our track members and he'll be throwing tomorrow. He's not here right now, but you can come out and watch Zeke. And the field events start at 3:45, running events at 4 p.m. And even if you can only come for half an hour and just cheer people on, it means so much to the kids to have community support. And these are our, you know, future Bearcats out there. And would just really love to see some familiar faces out there. And you're all welcome. It's free. Come to MHS Stadium. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Kinney. Councilmember Fulcher.
Speaking of signage, I've been getting a lot of comments myself about that. Seems like that is the first thing that people say when they remind themselves that I am a council member. Kevin, thank you. That's a very good report for Washington, D.C. It sounds like it was a good trip. So other than that, I was at the community meeting not last Thursday. Oh, I give up. It was on the 11th, I think. And that was interesting to see a lot of people show up for that. Good turnout, a lot of good questions. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis. Sorry, it's okay.
Beat me to it. A couple of things. First off, to remind everybody that we will be having laying the wreath at the memorial, the Veterans Memorial at Lake Ty on May 29th. And the question came up as to the time. Is there a set time on that? You know?
I would recommend going with 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Perfect.
Yep. And we don't know what time the VFW is doing their work. And it may just be that there's a small gathering of people that only a couple people from the VFW are able to make it.
All right. So unfortunately, the mayor is not going to be able to be there this year, but I will be standing in for him. So you're all welcome. And I will be there at 9 o'clock to do the presentation. The other thing is, if you've checked the Snohomish County site lately, you'll notice that we have 3 people that are running for my position as council member. And you'll also notice that I'm not one of them. So this, I guess, is sort of my official announcement that I will not be running again, and this will be my last year as city council. 3 terms, 12 years, and it's been great every single day that I've been here, and I've loved working with all the people that have been on the council for all the past 12 years. And before that, I was on the planning commission for almost a whole year, and that was nothing but drinking from a fire hose. But I mean, literally, and anybody that's been on the planning commission knows what I'm talking about. My hat always goes out to anybody that's been on a planning commission. They do yeoman's work, and I really appreciate them having had experienced that. But I just would like to say thank you to everybody on staff. I've never had anything to complain about here at the city. I've enjoyed myself, and I've enjoyed the work that we've accomplished and all the things that we've done over the last 12 years. So just a thank you to all of you, and many more good years ahead, I hope. So,
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you very much, Councilmember. And I know that I trust we'll still have an opportunity to honor you at the end of the year. And I have truly valued working with you all these years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scarborough.
Councilman Davis for his counsel and his experience and helping me through my informative years in the beginning of this and all the way along the line. I appreciate it very much. And as a fellow vet, I will be joining you Monday at the memorial presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember Scarborough. And Councilmember Fulcher.
I just found out that the VFW event at the IOF Cemetery is at 10 a.m. on Monday.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hanford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna save my thanks for Councilmember Davis for the celebration
Yes.
towards the end of the year. But friendly reminder for those of us that were going to contribute to the wreath. I already gave him my portion, so please don't forget if you were going to be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, thank you for doing that. And Councilmember Davis, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And you're not standing in for me, you're standing in for our whole community. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we are going to go on to staff and department reports. We will start off with our police department report with our deputy chief, who will need to, there we go. I didn't know if you're number what? You're number 16.
Got it.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I'm not going to read through the whole report, as I trust that you've had an opportunity to review it. I did want to highlight a few things that kind of popped out at me. One, vehicle thefts continue to be on the rise. I think that's a statewide trend we're seeing, as we were 3rd in the nation last year for vehicle thefts. But one of the things that I'm proud of here as we continue to struggle with filling vacancies, much like many departments, is if you look at our calls for service, our dispatch calls for service are up 9%, but our self-initiated activity where officers are out there being proactive, trying to deter crime, has increased by 49%. And I think that's a testament to our people and the hard work they're doing out there to try to keep our community safe. So I'm particularly proud of that, and that's noted in this report. I also wanted to just acknowledge that we were able to participate in the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in April. That is an opportunity for us to show our thanks to our dispatchers, who often are forgotten, that they are ones that provide us valuable information and keep us safe and calm people down in times of crisis. They are heroes. They would make us successful in what we do, and they're overlooked. So it was an amazing opportunity for us to go out and give them a gift basket to thank them for everything that they do. And the last thing I want to just highlight is just Sergeant Hatch's initiative and basically reaching out to our community members and schools and having a community gathering to kind of discuss scenes of violence. Our nation's been plagued with a lot of violence, and I'm proud of the fact that we're not waiting for something to happen. We're meeting with our community and explaining things that we are going to do if we respond to that, and giving people an opportunity to improve their awareness and readiness for if something were that like that were to ever happen. So I have nothing else to share. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief. Any questions? Councilmember Hanford, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, just a comment. I forgot to mention when I was in DC, it was directly after the honoring of officers killed in the line of duty, where they inscribed their names on the wall there.
National Police Week.
Yes, thank you. And so I got to visit that memorial late at night when there wasn't anybody around and saw all the flowers. Got to speak with Mayor Cassie Franklin from Everett. And she and I talked, and she told me about the experience that she had with 25% of their police force there in DC to support the family. So it was very impactful. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Deputy Chief or comments? All right, thank you, Deputy Chief. We're now going to turn to our Finance Director, Director Hassert. Director Hassert, seat 13.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the April finance report is in your packet. I am available if there are any questions for that. There were a couple of things, though, that I did want to bring up that are not necessarily in the packet. The first is that on last Thursday, we had the official bond rating interview call with Standard & Poor's. It's a fun little grilling that lasts usually anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. Ours actually went an hour 15. So where we get to talk about all the great things the city's been doing, not only just to manage its finances, but then also within the context of our economy, what kind of revenues we have coming in, things like that. We also talked about changes that we have made, especially to financial policy since the last time we went through a ratings call. For those that have been on the council for a little bit, the last rating call that we went through was back in 2018, where we were upgraded from a AA- to a AA. While they could not make any promises at the end of the call, our consultants did ask them, how they felt about potential upward pressure on our bond rating. And they said that, everything that's been presented looks pretty good. They had a lot of information sent to them ahead of time as well that they were able to look through, which is part of why our call didn't go as long as they could. So that was nice. We also corrected some things that they made recommendations on in that last ratings call, such as adopting a formal debt policy and also fully funding all of our reserves. The other item that they were happy to see is also that we have gone to a biannual budget because they like to see long-term planning. We also included for them and had sent ahead of time what we do for 6-year projections on the general fund. We specifically sent them the pages out of the budget book on that, as well as the 5-year model that we do for the 3 utilities. So those are all points to our favor. We hope to have the rating back sometime around June 1st. They can't make any promises. They said what they do now that's on their end is all of this information will now go to a committee that they use to do the review of everything. And then they also do a comparative analysis to what they call other cities across the country that are kind of similar to us and see how we compare to them before they issue that rating. So on the whole, it felt good. I don't want to jinx anything, but just letting you know that's out there. We're hoping to get the results back around June 1st. If we do get it on June 1st and our rating either stays steady or does see an improvement, then that keeps us on track to do the sale of the bonds on June 14th, or at least put it out there on the markets on June 14th. And then ideally, then we will close and be funded by the end of the month, which means that Jacob then can start spending money. Having said all that, one of the questions, and this leads to the second thing I wanted to bring up, there's this pesky little thing called a debt ceiling limit that is being discussed in the other Washington. And I did ask our bond underwriter if they anticipated that that might create any waves for us with our bond issue. And while they're pretty certain that it won't create issues with regards with our bond issuance, one thing that we are keeping track of is that if there is not an increase to the debt ceiling, and the country does go into default, One of the things is that we have in our investment portfolio, six of our 14 investment vehicles are US Treasuries, which means that any investment payments that we are anticipating after June 1 could end up getting delayed. Now, there's assurances from everybody in the markets that even if that is delayed, we will eventually get our money. What is helpful for us is that none of our US Treasuries are going to mature over the next few months. In fact, the first maturity of one of our US Treasuries isn't until November of 2024. And God help us all if they haven't figured out the debt ceiling by then. So, so from that aspect, we're in pretty good shape. You may have seen me doing a little whispering down here with Mr. Roberts, just kind of thinking about if there are federal grants that we're expecting any big reimbursements on, to think about timing of when we put in for those reimbursements, things of that nature. And I think we're pretty up to date on everything. So we're in very, very good shape as far as cash flow goes. So with that, that's my finance report for this month, Mr. Mayor. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Hassard. Any questions for Director Hassard? All right, thank you very much. Next report out that we have is our community development report from Director Bailey. Director Bailey, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So the project highlight for this month, well, actually it's for April, was the comprehensive plan open house, which we've actually already talked about. But I wanted to give you a more fresh update. We had an opportunity for planning staff over the past 2 days to go to the high school and do the table exercise that we did at the community meeting to look at how to meet growth allocations for jobs and housing. And so over the last 2 days, we've been attending the civics class at the high school, and we had, unfortunately, Monday was senior skip day. So, but we still had 12 people in class, which I think the teacher was a little surprised about. And then today we had 30. So we had overall, we had 6 different table exercises over the last 2 days. And it was a really good opportunity for planning staff to engage with the students and to see some of their ideas. And we'll be incorporating that information into the sort of the survey results and all that we've been putting together for the public engagement. But it was an educational piece, I think, for both groups. Just to give you a quick update, the City Hall remodel project, we did a conditional use permit for the use in the temporary office building. And that hearing went very quick, and I expect we'll be getting a decision on that very soon. The site plan review for the City Hall remodel itself is in process, and I know that the consultants are working to get the architects are working to get the building permits submitted, as are many other builders, to beat the deadline for the new building codes that are being adopted. It's been mentioned a couple of times in the meeting today, I think in public comments, as well as some of the council updates about the resident parking program. And there was a community meeting that was held to provide information for that. And I was unable to attend, but I understand that it was well attended, and there was a good opportunity to provide information and education about exactly what that project is. The comments for that permit closed yesterday, and we have not received any additional comments. So we'll be issuing a decision on that here very soon. And I imagine that Deborah is going to mention this in the extended agenda, but it's just another heads up that we have a joint planning commission city council meeting coming up on June the 20th. And we'll be talking about development scenarios related to the comprehensive plan. And with that, if anyone has any questions.
All right, any questions for our director? All right, thank you very much. Next item then is our May Human Resources and IT Department monthly report. Director Worthen, go ahead.
Evening again. Couple of things to cover important in human resources. We have a few positions open. We're kind of in the middle of setting up interviews and have interviews this week for treatment plant operator, community service officer, and we are currently taking application for public works, maintenance worker, seasonals, and as the deputy chief stated earlier, police officers. So new hires, excited. Matthew Bush is a engineer 3 or senior engineer. I'm probably not as excited as Mr. Peterson is, but Matt comes to us from WashDOT and he has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from WSU. Earlier tonight, you met Allie Edwards, the new human resources coordinator. Allie's actually been on board for almost 2 years. She was kind enough to work part-time with us while she finished up her degree from the University of Washington, and she's also a local graduate. So keys to that, our local graduate, our intern program is successful, and we're continuing to build off of that. So that's that in human resources. Anniversary list, I should probably talk about a couple people. Donovan Shepherd and Teresa Davis, both in the plant, have been, Donovan's been with us for 25 years at the treatment plant, and Teresa 22. So that's a pretty, that's a long time. And I just visited them last week or the week before, and they're doing great. The other part of what we're up to is working with Mojo Strategies, our communications consultant. They've been doing a lot of work on obviously getting ready for the move. We have a number of things coming out in Choose Monroe, flyers that are going to go out. They've also been working on developing comprehensive social media policy, actually doing ongoing social media training initiatives. We just had one today on how to shoot videos on social media. I will not be partaking in it, but I understand other people will be learning how to shoot videos on this. So that's that. And then finally, IT. IT has actually been working really closely with facilities. When you do move an office, the server has to go somewhere. Facilities was kind enough to find us an area in the Mon CC, which is our newest building, and I'm hopeful that that will last till the end of my career. We won't have to move another server room. Jamie, Ron, and Michael Tomisto did a great job. That actually looks really good. We're excited to be over to move into that, and then also working on getting internet services to our buildings as we move, and also to our temporary location. So just a lot of the fine detail work that kind of goes unnoticed, but is a lot of technical depth just to get going so we can go get ready for the move. And with that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Worthen? Councilmember Kinney, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just had a question about Mojo, the communication support. Are they on a retainer, or do we just reach out to them when we need their services?
We have a contract with them that cannot exceed. So we a certain dollar amount, $75,000, and we have a scope of work that they're working off of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. We're going to now move on to our Public Works Department report with Director Roberts. Director Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It became apparent to me as I was sitting here tonight that the campus project is moving forward, and it actually is due to every single person in this room, even the audience. So thank you all. I think the council, the mayor, administrator led the charge, and then we're looking at Becky, who's I think on the cusp of getting the funds to do the project. Lance's team is, delivering conditional use permits, reviewing site plans right now, which was submitted, I believe, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. For the site plan building permit is forthcoming. Actually back here, we got HRIT with the art. Ben mentioned the fiber and the relocation of the server room. Those all build off this, what I'm going to call, it's Monroe's mega project right now. So it takes the team, it takes everybody in the room to get it done. In any case, also looking at projects that are going on in Monroe right now, the bidding season is here. It's summertime. The Transportation Benefit District, the 177 sewer project, I believe you approved both those tonight on the consent agenda. So those contracts are going out the door. So you're going to start seeing pavement being ripped up and then restored. New sewer main going in down to serve the 177th area and deal with those flow restriction issues. Powell Street is chugging right along and going. So that's a big improvement for that area of our community as well. And then the SR 522 water main crossing that's going under, not over, is going to be an upgrade too from a water main that's been there since the 1960s or 50s, somewhere in that area. And then also the Blueberry project is going on. So obviously you've had a chance to take a look at the report. That concludes what I have to add for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Roberts? All right, thank you. We're going to now move on to our city administrator report, and I'll turn to Administrator Knight. Administrator Knight, go ahead.
Great. I am going to walk the council through the extended agenda. So for May 30th, we have tentatively planned on the 5th Tuesdays of the months of the calendar year, workshops or retreats if they're needed. And at this time, we do not need one. So we are going to go ahead and cancel that workshop. Looking forward then to June 6th. We do have a Public Safety Committee meeting planned. Many of these items have been rolled forward from previous months, including the gun buyback program, SRO contract pursuit review, PD department reports, and then bias-based policing annual review. Looking then onto the regular study session starting at 7 p.m. We don't currently have any items, but we're not prepared yet to cancel that meeting at this time. So in the event we have any items that come forward, we will go ahead and continue with that meeting. And if not, we will notify the council that it has been canceled. On regular business meeting on June 13th, we do have a City Council Legislative Affairs Committee meeting starting at 6 p.m. And we're going to be reviewing our federal legislative update and then an ordinance for the temporary meeting relocations with Clerk Jody Wyckoff. For the regular business meeting, we do have Police Department awards presentation with Chief Jolly. On the consent agenda, we have a couple of standard items, our payments, our payroll, and our meeting minutes. We do have an authorization of the contract with Ferguson Enterprises for the water meter radio antennas with John Landy. A public hearing with the Transportation Improvement Program with Scott Peterson, and rules of order. Oh, I think that was just a leftover note, perhaps. Under new business, we've got the ordinance for the school district capital facility plan updates with first reading with Amy Bright. Ordinance 2023 for the budget amendment, first reading with Becky Hassard. The fee resolution update, an ordinance for the temporary relocation of meetings adoption. Again, that's with Clerk Wyckoff. And then under new business, we've got the ordinance for the building code adoption and then the standard reports from departments. So quite a few items already planned for that regular business meeting on June 13th. There was a mention earlier that there will be a joint city council and planning commission planned for the council's regular study session, and that is again on June 20th. So you do have some study session items in addition to that joint meeting. And that's all for the extended agenda.
Any questions on the extended agenda? Okay, and for council's information and also for our Mayor Pro Tem, I will not be present on June 20th. So for that joint meeting, staff will go ahead and work with you so that you're prepared for that larger meeting.
All right, and then having already covered the first two bullet items, the only other item is just to let the council know that we are already planning our first meeting in the school district administrative building, assuming that this building will be at that point no longer occupied. So mark your calendars for July 11th and more information to come about that meeting location. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? All right. A couple of administrative proclamations. We have a proclamation for Memorial Day 2023 in your packets. We also have a proclamation for Public Works Week for 2023. Also in your packets. I really value all the work that our Public Works staff does, as you heard from Director Jacob, Director Roberts earlier. You've got a lot going on. Everything from the municipal campus redo to Blueberry, working with the Parks Department and everything. And we all really appreciate everything that your department does to keep the infrastructure we can see operating and keep the infrastructure that we can't see so that we still can't see it because it's operating correctly. So thank you. And for Memorial Day, again, I do appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem Ed Davis taking that on, and thank you all for contributing to the wreath. I appreciate it. And I think as far as for me, you'll see in your email that I had received a couple of emails. If you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to me. Also, I had received another email that I don't think that I shared with you, but a member of our, a resident of our community, Ken Fulcher, reached out to me and told me how much he appreciated the signs and everything and asked that I share that with whomever is responsible. And I responded that a lot of people were involved in it. So just for all the people that were involved in it, we're getting a lot of really positive comments on the monument signs, the wayfinding signs and everything. And I'm just thinking they look great. So thank you. I think that's all that I have to report right now for the mayor's report. Does anybody have any questions for me or for our city administrator Knight? All right, seeing none, we do have a need for an executive session this evening. And the executive session is related to property acquisition, person to RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1, subsection little b, for an initial 7 minutes. We will start that time at 8:35. With the note that we will return to this open session for potential action, if nothing else for adjournment. So we are now in executive session for an initial 7 minutes. We will announce any extensions that we might need.
For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended 8 minutes. The executive session has been extended 5 minutes. The executive session has been extended an additional 5 minutes. The executive session has been extended an additional 5 minutes.
All right. Oops. Okay, we're back in session. We have no further business this evening. So unless there's objection, the council is adjourned. There being no objection, we are adjourned. Have a great week, everybody.